our senior advisor for foreign policy and national security. Rick Grenell was the acting director of national intelligence. Rick, you talk a lot about the problems with leaks. This one, it goes to even like a new level because it is a legal document that has been leaked for political purposes to try and influence the judicial branch of the United States.
You know, it's really frustrating. It's sad. I think it's an attack on our public service. You know, we expect bureaucrats and people who are paid by the U.S. government or by government agencies to be of service to the public and not to have their own personal agenda. But I think you have to blame the media here for over the last 20 years abandoning the idea of public service or fair, coverage to immediately evolve into anything goes as long as your agenda is furthered. And whoever leaked this document had an agenda and decided to abandon public service. They're being paid by U.S. taxpayers, but they're ignoring U.S. taxpayers. And I think that this is a real problem. We got to get back to bureaucrats, public servants who work for the people, not for the agenda. And when we find these people, they need to be fired. We need to weed them out. And I will appeal to anyone listening to us that works in government or is paid by taxpayers, out your colleagues, police yourself. Let's figure out who are the bad apples and get rid of them, because you're losing your credibility with the American people.
Well, and this is where, and then the politician, the political divide, Rick, I mean, it's one thing, again, they can have all their opinions they want about the leaked document, but we didn't see Joe Biden say this leak is wrong. We didn't see any Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or any Democrat senators or members of Congress say that the leak was wrong. They didn't start with it's wrong that a court document like this was leaked. They went right to the politics of it.
The agenda. That's the problem is that they're furthering the agenda. They're pushing this idea that the means justifies the end, and or the ends justifies the means. And so what we have to be able to do is be very clear that there are consequences for this. And I think that if we had a big, high-profile firing, someone lost their law license, if they're a Supreme Court clerk, for instance, and they just immediately, they lost the trust of the public, then I think you would see people get nervous. Now, you can't blame the media for wanting to have these documents. That's their job. But we prosecute the leakers.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing is that they already want this leaker to be celebrated. They're going to try and protect and celebrate this leaker, make them a hero of the left. And so, again, we're following it very closely. Obviously, this is now a full-scale war for life going on legislatively. They're trying to push through. We see the intimidation on the justices they're trying to push through, and we haven't even gotten a final opinion yet. Most people were predicting that would be coming out late June, maybe early July at the latest. Maybe it comes out sooner now, and they are trying to create this outrage in the country. We're on it at the ACLJ, but you see now this leak issue is getting into all segments of the government. Everything is becoming hyper-politicized. But I want to go to one other issue that I know people they're following closely in our country, and it's whether or not we're getting closer and closer into combat in Ukraine. And we had Congressman Adam Kinzinger has put forward, Rick, an AUMF, an authorization for the use of military force in Ukraine that he wants Congress to pass to give Joe Biden the green light to send in U.S. troops.
You know, I'm always amazed that we have so many members of Congress that are trying to always beef up the military without beefing up the State Department or the diplomatic peaceful options. Why aren't we seeing a diplomatic surge? Why aren't we having, our Secretary of State living in Russia trying to solve these problems? Now, I know we can all say, oh, Putin is going to do his own thing, but we're not even trying. We're not even trying to put pressure diplomatically. I just think that we've given this up. You know, Macron has gone over there one time, and then we sent in the UN Secretary General. I mean, these people are never going to be able to negotiate a solution. And so I think we got to blame Joe Biden and Secretary of State Blinken. Blinken has his own plane. He can go to Moscow. He can knock on the door. He can be there. I don't understand why the State Department is not much more aggressive. But when you immediately, talk about use of military force, American soldiers in Ukraine, I think that it's a real problem. First of all, you're teaching the Europeans to get out of the way and that the Americans are always going to be there. That's the opposite of America First. We tried to get our allies to do more and to pay their fair share. And they need to police their own area. I've said this before, but when we tried to remove all the troops, and we were pretty successful in getting rid of the troops in Somalia, it was because we told Kenya, hey, you should police your own neighborhood and not expect the Americans to do this every time. And so I think we've got to make more progress there, certainly when it comes to Ukraine. But I'll finish with this, Jordan, is that we shouldn't be talking about expanding NATO membership when the current NATO members aren't paying their fair share.
Yeah, I mean, now you've got these countries like Finland and Norway trying to get into NATO, which we also know is a factor that Vladimir Putin is using to justify these aggressions. So it's not, again, good or bad. It seems like, last question for you, Rick, it's like you said, it seems like there's just no strategy, no diplomatic strategy. And so the only way they've got is throw more missiles at it, throw more bombs at it, and maybe throw U.S. troops into it.
Well, that's the official Washington way. That's their problem, is that they always push aside the State Department and they rush in with just military options. We ask, Adam Kinzinger is somebody who has asked the Defense Department to think about winning hearts and minds. That's not the job of the Department of Defense. I want to have a credible threat of military action, so a strong Department of Defense. But the options in the lead up to war are plenty, and we're not using them. And certainly we got to stop mocking diplomats who are tough, send in the tough diplomats and try to avoid war.
Rick, as always, appreciate your insight.